New Asgarth Prologue. One of the first cities to be built in a dome, New Asgarth was now showing signs of age. The worst of the damage from the nuclear bombs and radiation waves of the Great War had occurred in a band round the equator, bringing devastation and death. The dome had been built in a hurry with the post-war technologies and materials available at the time, racing against the arrival of the radiation waves moving northward. Survivors had needed shelter urgently, so the building of the dome itself had been the priority. There had been little time to think about the practical issues of lives lived in it and the needs of a community. The site chosen was close to what had been the city of Billings, Montana. Further north and south from the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn, destruction was less, signs of life increased. The bulk of mankind now lived in the north of the globe, with a few other small pockets in what had been southern Australia, New Zealand, and the tip of South America. The old Montana was judged far enough north for fourth world life to be sustainable there. Life in a dome was harsh and uncomfortable. Zones were drawn up for production, food, health and care, education and training, and habitation, and given that order of priority. Most of these were positioned underground, along with any administrative areas. However, the designers had realised the remaining human population would need more than just animals and food if they were to thrive. They would need nourishment from other sources too, in particular from natural light coming into the dome from above. The 3-story apartment blocks in the habitation zone were all on ground level, as was the hospital and a small sector of the food zone. These blocks were built using baked clay, mixed with the remains of any ruins nearby, and furnished with what could be salvaged, recycled, or handcrafted. While in time, buildings flattened by bombs could be rebuilt, and some technologies reclaimed, the most lasting damage had been from the radiation waves. Humankind had been decimated, but the impact on global animal, insect and plant life had stronger implications for the future. Any surviving animals and birds were now declared endangered. It was forbidden to eat them. Bulk crops, such as beans, potatoes, and the new super wheat developed before the war, were grown using hydroponic techniques in the lower levels of the domes. A limited amount of vegetables, fruit, and herbs were cultivated in pods at ground level. As a result, food was of limited variety and rationed with care. Most of the inhabitants of a dome moved around its streets on foot, although a select elite were allocated bicycles. A few reconstructed vehicles were reserved for the High Council and the military. Winding flights of stairs and large old-fashioned lifts provided access to the underground level. Food was distributed weekly from the rationing station. A bartering system in goods flourished, as the concept of paper money had dissolved with the bombs. At first, the World Council in Stockholm agreed that the dome should be kept sealed to protect against any remaining radiation. As time went on, many cities in the far north abandoned this edict in favour of access to the outside world, since the air there had proved to be contamination-free. Yet the City Council of New Asgarth remained unconvinced of this. Their major opinion was their dome would remain closed, leaving the recycled city air stale and unpleasant. As hard as life inside a dome could be, people knew things outside were far worse. Outside its walls, civilization held little sway. Instead, bands of renegades living in the wastelands imposed their own laws and justice. Called the scavengers, they scrabbled a precarious survival by looting and fighting, often ambushing the supply trains which travelled between domes. Most survivors in the Fourth World preferred to fight the familiar problems inside a dome: rationing, vermin, its steel air and water, rather than the unknown threats of life outside. How did the city get its name? One of the few intact artefacts in the area to survive the Great War was a statue of an early gold prospector of the 1880s. The first dome architects venerated this emblem of the survival of the human race and its history. Thus, the city was named after the engraving on the plinth: A. S. Garth.